The rain hammered against our bedroom window at 2:30 in the morning, and Lauren's side of the bed was still cold. Empty, again. I stared at the ceiling, counting raindrops racing down the glass like tears I'd never shed. My wife of 8 years was supposedly handling another HR emergency at Meridian Corporation, where she'd climbed from junior recruiter to senior vice president in record time. Meanwhile, I was still stuck managing IT projects for the same company, watching younger guys get promoted over me while Lauren smiled sympathetically and said things like, "Your time will come, honey." Right, my time, like waiting for a bus that never shows. The front door clicked open downstairs. I heard Lauren's heels on the hardwood, then the familiar routine, keys in the bowl, purse on the counter, wine glass from the cabinet. She'd pour herself a generous glass of that expensive Chardonnay she loved, probably text someone goodnight, then slip into bed smelling like vanilla perfume and lies. I closed my eyes and pretended to sleep when she finally came upstairs 20 minutes later. She moved quietly, efficiently, like she'd done this dance 100 times before. The mattress barely dipped when she slid under the covers. "Long night?" I mumbled, playing the concerned husband. "You know how it is. Corporate restructuring never sleeps." Her voice carried that practiced exhaustion she'd perfected. "Go back to sleep, Gabe." Gabe. Not Gabriel, not honey, not even babe. Just Gabe, like I was her coworker instead of her husband. The next morning, Lauren was gone before I woke up. Coffee still warm in the pot, her breakfast dishes already in the dishwasher, a post-it note on the fridge. "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. L. Not even love L anymore." I sat at our kitchen island, sipping coffee from my favorite mug, a gag gift from last Christmas that read "World's Okayest Husband," and wondered when exactly I'd become a stranger in my own life. When had Lauren stopped looking at me like I mattered? When had our conversations turned into status reports? My phone buzzed. Text from Mason, my only loyal team member at Meridian. "Dude, you see the email about the VP of Operations opening? Applications due Friday. VP of Operations. Lauren's level. Maybe higher." I scrolled through my work emails until I found it. Senior management position, overseeing multiple departments, including HR. Competitive salary, executive benefits, corner office. Everything Lauren had that I didn't. Everything Lauren thought I'd never be good enough to get. That afternoon, I decided to surprise my wife with lunch. Maybe we could talk, reconnect, figure out where we'd lost each other in the maze of corporate ambition and suburban routine. I picked up sandwiches from that deli she liked and headed to Meridian's 32nd floor. The elevator opened to reveal the familiar corporate landscape. Glass offices, ergonomic chairs, and the soft hum of productivity. Lauren's corner office sat at the end of the hall, her name etched in gold on frosted glass. Lauren Atwood, Senior VP, Human Resources. I was halfway there when I heard her voice drifting from the conference room. "I mean, seriously, Dina, sometimes I look at him and think, this is it? This is what I settled for?" I stopped walking. My wife's laugh echoed off the glass walls, sharp and dismissive. "Gabe's sweet, don't get me wrong, but he's so content with mediocrity. He's been in the same position for 3 years, making the same salary, driving the same boring Honda. He talks about getting promoted like it's some impossible dream instead of just going after what he wants." "Maybe he's just not executive material," another woman's voice replied. Dina Morrison, Lauren's best friend and fellow HR director. "Some people are followers, not leaders." "Exactly. And that's fine for some marriages, but I need a partner who challenges me, you know? Someone who pushes boundaries and takes risks. Someone who..." Lauren's voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "Someone like Evan." My blood turned to ice water. Evan Pike, a director of strategic planning. Tall, confident, expensive suits, corner office 2 floors up, the kind of guy who called everyone buddy and somehow made it sound condescending. "Speaking of Evan," Dina's voice carried a smile. "How was your business trip to Chicago?" "Amazing. We barely left the hotel room." Lauren giggled like a teenager. "He's everything Gabe isn't. Ambitious, exciting, dangerous. When Evan looks at me, I feel like I could conquer the world. When Gabe looks at me, I feel like I'm slowly disappearing." The sandwich bag crinkled in my tightening grip. "Are you going to leave him?" "Eventually, but not until I figure out the logistics. Divorce is expensive, and Gabe knows all my financial information. Plus, there's the house, the joint accounts. I need to be smart about this." "What about Evan? Is he serious about you?" "He better be. I'm not throwing away 8 years of marriage for a fling. Evan talks about us moving in together, maybe starting fresh somewhere new. He's got connections in Seattle, Portland, places where we could both get better positions. My wife was planning her exit strategy. Our marriage was a business transaction she was ready to dissolve. I backed away from the conference room, my heart hammering against my ribs. The lunch bag felt heavy in my hands, weighted with the ruins of everything I'd believed about my life. The elevator couldn't come fast enough. That night, I sat in my home office staring at Lauren's laptop. She'd left it open on the kitchen counter, password protected, but not logged out of her email. My wife, the HR executive who preached digital security to the entire company, had made a rookie mistake. Or maybe she just didn't think I was smart enough to be a threat. Her inbox told a story I'd been too blind to see. Months of flirtation with Evan Pike, starting innocuous. Great presentation today, and thanks for the coffee, then escalating to dinner invitations, weekend texts, and finally explicit planning for their Chicago business trip. The trip that wasn't business at all. I scrolled through weeks of messages, each one a small betrayal that built into something devastating. Lauren and Evan had been careful, using coded language and company euphemisms, but the meaning was clear. They'd been sleeping together for 6 months, maybe longer. My phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. Working super late. Probably won't be home until after midnight. Order pizza or something. It was barely 7 o'clock. I checked her location on the Find My Friends app we'd set up years ago for safety. She wasn't at the office. She was at the Marriott downtown, the same hotel where she'd stayed during her Chicago trip with Evan, the same hotel where she was probably with him right now. I closed the laptop and walked to our bedroom. Lauren's side of the closet was perfectly organized, color-coordinated, every piece carefully chosen to project success and sophistication. But tucked behind her winter coats, I found something interesting, a small gift bag from Victoria's Secret, receipt still attached. Purchased 3 days ago. Expensive lingerie, definitely not her usual practical style. Lingerie I'd never seen her wear. My phone rang, Mason's name on the screen. Hey man, you okay? You seemed weird when you left today. I sat on the edge of our bed, surrounded by evidence of my wife's betrayal. Can I ask you something? Hypothetically. Shoot. If someone wanted to research company personnel files, email records, travel expenses, how would they go about it? Mason was quiet for a moment. Hypothetically, someone with your IT access could pull a lot of information, employee records, expense reports, email metadata. Why? Just curious about security vulnerabilities. Right. Well, hypothetically, if someone were doing that kind of research, they'd want to be careful. Cover their tracks, use legitimate business reasons for accessing files, and they'd probably want help from someone who knows the system inside and out. Hypothetically. Exactly. You want to grab a beer tomorrow, talk about hypothetical security issues? Yeah, that sounds good. After Mason hung up, I sat in the silence of my empty house and made a decision. Lauren thought I was content with mediocrity, that I was too passive to fight for what I wanted. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next morning, Lauren was already gone when I woke up. Her coffee mug sat in the sink, lipstick stain on the rim, and another post-it note on the fridge. Late meeting tonight. Don't wait up. I crumpled the note and threw it away. At work, I found Mason in the server room, running diagnostics on the backup systems. He looked up when I walked in, eyebrows raised. So, hypothetical security research? I closed the door behind me. I need to know about employee travel records, specifically who's been taking trips together, staying at the same hotels, charging meals to company accounts. That's pretty specific for a hypothetical question. Lauren's having an affair. Mason's face shifted from curiosity to sympathy to something harder. Shit, man. I'm sorry. You sure? Positive. Evan Pike from Strategic Planning. They've been using company travel as cover for their relationship. That's a fireable offense. Both of them could lose their jobs. I know. I pulled up a chair next to Mason's workstation. But I need proof. Real evidence. Not just suspicious emails and hotel receipts. Mason cracked his knuckles and turned to his computer. Let's see what we can find. For the next 2 hours, we dug through Meridian's digital records like archaeologists uncovering buried secrets. Travel expenses revealed a pattern. Lauren and Evan had been on 7 business trips together in the past 6 months, always staying at the same hotels, always with adjoining rooms or suites. Dinner charges for 2 at expensive restaurants. Bar tabs that suggested intimate conversations rather than business meetings. But the real goldmine was in the email metadata. Look at this, Mason said, pointing to his screen. They're using company email for personal communication, but deleting the messages after sending them. Thing is, our backup system captures everything before deletion. Can you recover the deleted emails? Already am. Mason's fingers flew across the keyboard. This might take a while, but yeah, I can get you everything. My phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. How's your day going, honey? The casual affection felt like a slap. I texted back. Good. Busy with a new project? You? Same. Lots of meetings. Love you. Love you. 2 words that used to mean everything, now just corporate speak for maintaining the status quo. There, Mason said. Got about 3 months of recovered emails. You want to read them now or... Send them to my personal account. I'll review them tonight. Gabe, what are you planning to do with this? I looked at my friend, this loyal guy who just helped me uncover my wife's betrayal without asking for anything in return. I'm going to apply for that VP of Operations position. That's Lauren's level. You'd potentially be her boss? I know, Mason grinned. This should be interesting. That evening, I sat in my home office reading 3 months of recovered emails between my wife and her lover. Each message was a small knife twist, but I forced myself to read every word to understand the full scope of their relationship. They weren't just having an affair, they were planning a future together. I can't wait to get away from this suburban prison, Lauren had written. Gabe's a good man, but he's not my man, you know? He's content with his little life, his little job, his little dreams. I need more than that. Evan's response. Soon, baby. Once I get the Portland position locked down, we can make our move. You can file for divorce and we'll start fresh. No more sneaking around, no more pretending. What about Gabe? I feel guilty sometimes. He'll be fine. Guys like him always land on their feet. Besides, you're doing him a favor. He deserves someone who appreciates his simplicity. My simplicity. Like I was a golden retriever they were dropping off at a shelter. I printed the most damaging emails and locked them in my desk drawer. Then I opened a new document and started working on my application for VP of Operations. The job description was intimidating, overseeing 6 departments, managing a $50 million budget, reporting directly to the CEO. Everything Lauren thought I wasn't qualified for. But as I worked through the requirements, I realized something. I'd been underestimating myself for years, accepting Lauren's assessment of my abilities instead of recognizing my own strengths. I'd managed complex IT projects worth millions of dollars. I'd coordinated between departments, solved crisis situations, led teams through difficult implementations. I wasn't the mediocre middle manager Lauren saw. I was an executive who'd been hiding in plain sight. My phone rang at 11:30, Lauren's name on the screen. Hey, honey, just wanted to let you know I'm staying at the office tonight. This restructuring project is killing me, and I've got back-to-back meetings starting at 7 tomorrow morning. Want me to bring you dinner? Coffee? No, that's sweet, but I'm fine. Dina ordered Chinese food for the team. I'll probably just sleep on the couch in my office. I pulled up the Find My Friends app. Lauren's phone was at the Marriott again. Okay, get some rest. Love you. Love you too? After she hung up, I finished my VP application, cover letter, resume, references, portfolio of my best project work. By the time I submitted it through the company portal, it was almost 2 a.m. Lauren came home the next day around noon, claiming she'd wrapped up her all-nighter and decided to work from home for the afternoon. She looked refreshed, showered, like someone who'd spent the night in a comfortable hotel bed rather than sleeping on an office couch. How was your night? She asked, kissing my cheek as she poured coffee. Productive. I applied for that VP of Operations position. Lauren froze with her coffee mug halfway to her lips. You what? The job posting Mason mentioned. I put together an application. Gabe. Lauren set down her mug and turned to face me, her expression carefully neutral. That's a very senior position. Are you sure you're ready for that level of responsibility? I think so. I've been managing complex projects for years, working with executive teams, overseeing. Multi-million-dollar implementations seems like a natural next step. It's a big jump from project management to executive leadership, and the politics at that level can be brutal. I'd hate to see you get in over your head. There it was, the gentle condescension wrapped in concern that had been chipping away at my confidence for years. Lauren's way of keeping me in my place while maintaining plausible deniability. Maybe you're right, I said, but I figured it couldn't hurt to try. Relief flickered across her face. Of course. It's good to be ambitious. Just manage your expectations, okay? These positions usually go to people with more executive experience. Like Evan Pike? Lauren's coffee mug slipped in her hand, sloshing liquid onto the counter. What? I heard he's applying too. Makes sense. He's got the strategic planning background, the leadership experience, probably the front runner. I don't know anything about Evan's career plans. Lauren grabbed paper towels to clean up the spilled coffee, avoiding eye contact. We don't really talk about that stuff. Right. Well, may the best candidate win. That afternoon, I got a call from Janet Morrison, Meridian's Chief Human Resources Officer and Lauren's boss. She wanted to schedule a preliminary interview for the VP position. I have to say, Gabe, your application was impressive. I had no idea you'd been involved in so many high-level projects. Lauren's lucky to be married to such an accomplished professional. Thank you. I'm excited about the opportunity. How does Lauren feel about you potentially joining the executive team? It could create an interesting dynamic, having spouses at the same organizational level. She's very supportive. She thinks it's time I challenge myself professionally. Wonderful. Can you come in Friday at 2? I'd like to discuss your background in more detail. After Janet hung up, I sat in my office grinning like an idiot. My wife thought I was too mediocre for executive leadership, but her own boss was impressed enough to fast-track my interview. This was going to be fun. Friday's interview went better than I dared hope. Janet, along with 2 other senior executives, grilled me for 90 minutes about project management, strategic planning, crisis resolution, and team leadership. I had real examples for everything, concrete results, measurable successes that I'd been too modest to highlight before. We'll be conducting second-round interviews next week, Janet said as she walked me to the elevator. I hope you'll be available. Absolutely. And Gabe, this conversation stays confidential until we make our final decision. I'm sure you understand the sensitivity around executive hiring. I understood perfectly. Lauren had no idea her husband was being seriously considered for a position that would make him her organizational equal, maybe even her boss. The weekend passed in careful normalcy. Lauren worked on her laptop, took calls from the office, and maintained the fiction of our happy marriage while texting someone who definitely wasn't Dina from HR. I mowed the lawn, watched baseball, and pretended not to notice when she stepped outside to take private phone calls. Sunday night, she announced another business trip. Seattle this time. 3 days of meetings with potential acquisition targets. I'll fly out Tuesday morning, back Friday evening. Seattle's nice this time of year. Should be. Evan's going too. He's got the strategic analysis for the potential deals. The casual way she mentioned Evan's name was almost impressive, like she was discussing the weather instead of her next romantic getaway. Well, have fun. Try to see some of the city if you get a chance. We'll probably be too busy, but maybe. Monday morning, I got a call from Janet Morrison's assistant. They wanted to schedule my second interview for Thursday afternoon. The timing was perfect. Lauren would be in Seattle, probably too distracted to notice any unusual activity at the office. That evening, Lauren packed for her trip. I watched from the bedroom doorway as she carefully selected outfits that had nothing to do with business meetings. The Victoria's Secret lingerie went into her suitcase, along with a cocktail dress I'd never seen before. That's a nice dress, I commented. This old thing, I might need something for a client dinner. In Seattle? You know how these acquisition meetings go. Lots of relationship building over expensive meals? Right. Relationship building. Tuesday morning, Lauren kissed me goodbye with the same casual affection she'd show a roommate. I'll call you tonight, okay? Love you. Love you too. Have a safe flight. After she left, I did something I'd never done before. I called in sick to work and drove to the airport. Lauren and Evan's flight to Seattle departed at 10:15 from Terminal B. I positioned myself at a coffee shop with a clear view of their gate and waited. At 9:30, I saw them, Lauren in her business suit and heels, Evan in his expensive navy blazer, standing close together like the couple they were. They weren't trying to hide their relationship. Evan's hand rested on Lauren's lower back as they talked. She laughed at something he said, touching his arm in that intimate way she used to touch mine. When their boarding group was called, he carried her bag along with his own. I took photos with my phone. Not for legal reasons. I wasn't planning to divorce Lauren, at least not yet, but I wanted documentation of their public behavior, proof that they weren't being as discreet as they thought. Thursday's interview was even better than the first. This time I met with the CEO himself, along with Janet and the CFO. They presented scenarios, asked me to solve hypothetical problems, challenged my thinking on strategic initiatives. The person we hire will be overseeing human resources, among other departments, the CEO said. How do you feel about managing former peers? People who might have preconceptions about your capabilities? I think results speak louder than preconceptions. If I can demonstrate value and leadership, people will adjust their expectations accordingly. What about potential conflicts of interest? Personal relationships that might complicate professional decisions? I met his gaze steadily. I believe in maintaining clear boundaries between personal and professional responsibilities. If a situation arose where my objectivity might be compromised, I'd recuse myself from the decision-making process. After the interview, Janet walked me to the elevator again. We should have a decision by early next week. I hope you're prepared for the responsibilities this position would entail. I am. Good, because between you and me, you're our top candidate. That evening, Lauren called from Seattle. How was your day, honey? Good. Quiet. How are the meetings going? Exhausting. We've been in conference rooms for 12 hours straight. I barely had time to grab lunch. I pulled up the photos on my phone, Lauren and Evan at their departure gate, looking anything but exhausted by business meetings. That sounds rough. What's the hotel like? Fine. Nothing special. Just a place to sleep between meetings. Are you and Evan staying at the same hotel? A pause. I think so. The company booked all the rooms together for convenience. Makes sense. Well, get some rest. Love you. Love you too. After we hung up, I sat in my empty house and made a decision. When Lauren came home from Seattle, when she looked me in the eye and lied about her business trip, I was going to stop pretending I didn't know the truth. It was time for a confrontation. Lauren returned from Seattle Friday evening with a tan and a guilty conscience. She hugged me at the airport like we'd been separated for months instead of 3 days, overcompensating for whatever she'd done with Evan in her hotel room. I missed you, she said, her face buried in my shoulder. I missed you too. How were the meetings? Productive. Really productive. I think we might have found some great acquisition targets. On the drive home, Lauren chattered about Seattle's weather, the hotel's room service, and the challenging nature of acquisition analysis. She was working too hard to fill the silence, like she was afraid of what I might say if she stopped talking. Evan was really helpful with the strategic assessments, she mentioned as we pulled into our driveway. He's got such a good eye for market opportunities. I'm sure he does. That night, we had dinner at our kitchen island like we'd done thousands of times before. But everything felt different now. The careful distance Lauren maintained, the way she checked her phone between bites, the practiced interest she showed in my work stories. Oh, I almost forgot, she said as we cleaned up. Janet Morrison mentioned that you interviewed for that VP position. How did it go? My hand stilled on the dish I was washing. She told you about that? Just in passing. She was impressed that you'd applied for such a senior role. What else did she say? Lauren shrugged, but I caught the tension in her shoulders. Nothing really. Just that the interview process was competitive. Did she mention who else was being considered? No. Why would she? That's confidential information. But Lauren knew. Somehow she'd found out that I was being seriously considered for a position that would change everything between us. Saturday morning, I woke up to find Lauren already dressed and putting on makeup. Where are you going? Gym, then lunch with Dina. Girl time, you know? On Saturday? We both had such a crazy week. We need to decompress. After Lauren left, I called Mason. Want to grab coffee? I need to talk through some things. We met at a diner downtown, away from our neighborhood, and anyone who might know Lauren. Mason listened as I told him about the Seattle trip, the photos I'd taken, and Lauren's suspicious behavior since coming home. She knows something's changed, I said. I can feel it. Maybe she found out about your interviews? Maybe, or maybe she's planning to end things with me sooner than expected. Mason stirred his coffee thoughtfully. What are you going to do? Depends on whether I get the VP job. If I do, everything changes. I'll have leverage, authority, the ability to make decisions about her department. And if you don't? Then I'll have to decide whether to confront her directly or just let this marriage die slowly. My phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. Lunch is running long. Might do some shopping with Dina afterward. Home by dinner. I showed Mason the message. $5 says she's not with Dina. No bet, that's too obvious. We finished our coffee and went our separate ways. I spent the afternoon at home, cleaning the house and thinking about the conversation I was going to have with my wife. Because one way or another, the pretending was going to stop. Lauren came home at 6:30 with shopping bags from stores she rarely visited. She was trying too hard again, showing me purchases like evidence of her innocent afternoon with Dina. Look what I found, she said, pulling out a sweater that was completely wrong for her style. Dina said it would look good on me. It's nice. And I got you something too. She handed me a coffee mug with "World's Best Husband" printed on the side. The irony was devastating. Sunday passed quietly. Lauren worked on her laptop. I watched football, and we maintained the careful distance that had become our normal. But I could feel her watching me, studying my behavior like she was trying to solve a puzzle. That evening, as we got ready for bed, Lauren finally asked the question I'd been expecting. "Are you okay? You seem different since I got back from Seattle." "Different how?" "Distant, like you're thinking about something else." I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for the first time in months. She was still beautiful, still the ambitious woman I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. But somewhere along the way, she'd stopped seeing me as a partner and started seeing me as an obstacle to the life she really wanted. "I've been thinking about us," I said. "About where we're headed." Lauren's face went carefully neutral. "What do you mean?" "When's the last time we talked about the future? Our plans, our goals, what we want from this marriage?" "We talk about that stuff all the time." "No, we don't. We talk about your career, your ambitions, your timeline. I'm just supposed to fit into whatever life you're building." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When did you last ask me what I wanted? What would make me happy?" Lauren sat on the edge of our bed, her hands folded in her lap. "What would make you happy, Gabe?" "Honesty, respect, a wife who sees me as more than a supporting character in her success story." "I do see you as more than that." "Do you? Or do you see me as someone who's holding you back from the life you really want?" The question hung between us like a challenge. Lauren's carefully composed expression cracked just enough for me to see the truth underneath. "I think," she said slowly, "that we both deserve to be with people who make us feel like our best selves." "And I don't make you feel that way?" "You make me feel safe, comfortable, but not excited about the future." There it was, the honest answer I'd been waiting for. "What about Evan Pike?" I asked quietly. "Does he make you feel excited about the future?" Lauren's face went white. "What?" "You heard me." "I don't know what you're implying, but—" "I'm not implying anything. I'm asking directly. And are you having an affair with Evan Pike?" The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Lauren's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. "The business trips," I continued. "The late nights at the office. The new lingerie I've never seen you wear. The way you light up when you mention his name." "Gabe, Just tell me the truth. For once in the past 6 months, just tell me the truth." Lauren's shoulders sagged. When she looked up at me, her eyes were filled with tears and something that might have been relief. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm in love with him." The truth hung between us like a blade. Lauren sat on our bed, tears streaming down her face, while I stood in the doorway of our bedroom feeling strangely calm. After months of suspicion and careful investigation, hearing her admit the affair felt almost anticlimactic. "How long?" I asked. 6 months, maybe 7. Lauren wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "It wasn't supposed to happen. We were working on a project together, spending long hours planning the strategic restructure, and things just developed. The Seattle trip? We needed to talk about the future, about what we both wanted." "And what do you both want?" Lauren looked up at me with something that might have been hope. "A fresh start. Evan's got connections in Portland, Seattle, places where we could both find executive positions. We could build something together." "What about our marriage? Our house? 8 years of shared history?" "I know this hurts, Gabe. I never wanted to hurt you, but we both know this marriage has been over for a while. We're roommates, not lovers. You deserve someone who appreciates what you have to offer." What I had to offer, like I was a consolation prize she was passing along to someone less discriminating. "So what happens now?" I asked. "I don't know. I guess we need to talk about logistics, the house, finances, how to separate everything fairly." "When were you planning to tell me, or were you just going to disappear one day with a note on the refrigerator?" Lauren flinched. "I was waiting for the right time, when Evan's job situation was more settled, when I could figure out how to do this without destroying your life." "How considerate." "Don't be like that. I'm trying to be honest with you." "You're being honest now because I confronted you. If I hadn't asked, you'd still be lying to my face while you planned your escape." Lauren stood up, anger flashing in her eyes. "What did you expect me to do? You've been coasting for years, Gabe. Same job, same salary, same routine. I need more than that. I need a partner who challenges me, who pushes me to be better. Someone like Evan." "Yes, someone like Evan." I nodded slowly. "Well, I hope you'll be very happy together." Lauren blinked, surprised by my calm response. "That's it? You're not going to fight for us?" "What's to fight for? You just told me you're in love with someone else and planning to leave. Should I beg you to stay in a marriage that makes you feel trapped?" No, I guess not." "Good. Then we understand each other. I turned to leave the bedroom, then paused at the doorway. Oh, one more thing. I got the VP of Operations job. Lauren's face went blank. What? Janet Morrison called this afternoon. I start Monday. Congratulations, honey. You're going to be reporting to your mediocre husband. I left Lauren sitting on our bed with her mouth open and went downstairs to pour myself a drink. Tomorrow was going to be very interesting. On Monday morning, I put on my best suit and drove to Meridian Corporation as the new vice president of operations. Janet Morrison met me in the executive parking garage with a key card and a smile. Welcome to the leadership team, Gabe. I think you're going to do great things here. Thank you. I'm excited to get started. Your first executive. Meeting is at 9. I'll introduce you to the senior staff, and then we'll review your departmental responsibilities. As we walked through the lobby, I noticed people looking at me differently. Word had already spread that the IT project manager had been promoted to the executive level. Some faces showed surprise, others respect, and a few displayed the careful neutrality of people recalibrating their office politics. The executive conference room was exactly what I'd expected: mahogany table, leather chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. I took my seat among vice presidents and directors who'd barely acknowledged my existence a week ago. Before we begin, Janet said, I'd like everyone to welcome our new VP of Operations, Gabe Atwood. Gabe will be overseeing 6 departments, including human resources, strategic planning, and information technology. Polite applause around the table. I caught sight of Evan Pike sitting 3 chairs down, his face carefully composed, but his eyes showing something close to panic. Gabe, the CEO said, why don't you tell us about your priorities for the first 90 days? I'd prepared for this question. Thank you. My immediate focus will be on operational efficiency and interdepartmental coordination. I've identified several areas where we can streamline processes and improve communication between teams. Such as? Travel expense management, for one. I've noticed some inconsistencies in how business trips are approved and documented. I'd like to implement stronger oversight to ensure company resources are being used appropriately. Evan's coffee cup rattled against his saucer. Excellent, the CEO said. What else? Personnel management. There seem to be some gaps in our HR policies around workplace relationships and conflict of interest. I think we need clearer guidelines about professional boundaries. Janet nodded approvingly. That's been on my list for months. I'd love your input on updating those policies. After the meeting, I walked back to my new corner office, 3 floors above my old cubicle, with a view of the city and a secretary to manage my calendar. The nameplate on my door read, Gabriel Atwood, Vice President Operations. My phone buzzed. Text from Lauren. We need to talk. I texted back. I'm in meetings all day. How about dinner? This can't wait. Then come to my office. I have 15 minutes at 11:30. 20 minutes later, Lauren knocked on my door. She looked professional and composed, but I could see the tension in her posture. Congratulations on the promotion, she said, taking a seat across from my desk. Thank you. When did you find out? Janet called yesterday afternoon. And you didn't think to mention it during our conversation last night? I leaned back in my executive chair. You were busy confessing your affair. I didn't want to interrupt. Lauren's jaw tightened. This changes things. Does it? You know it does. We work for the same company now, at the same level. Actually, I'm your boss now. HR reports to operations. Gabe, you can't what? Do my job? Provide oversight for the departments I'm responsible for? You can't use your position to punish me for personal issues. I smiled. Lauren, I would never let personal feelings interfere with my professional responsibilities. That would be unethical. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm going to review all departmental operations with complete objectivity, travel expenses, personnel policies, interdepartmental relationships. Everything will be evaluated based on company standards and best practices. Lauren stood up abruptly. If you think you can intimidate me, I'm not trying to intimidate anyone. I'm trying to do the job I was hired for. We both know this is about Evan and me. This is about operational efficiency. If you and Evan have been conducting your relationship in a way that complies with company policy, you have nothing to worry about. Lauren stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked toward the door. This isn't over, she said. No, I agreed. It's just beginning. After Lauren left, I called Mason to my office. He arrived with a grin and a stack of files. Congratulations, boss. How does it feel to be running the show? Pretty good. What do you have for me? Mason set the files on my desk. Everything you asked for. travel records, expense reports, email metadata for the past year, all completely legitimate business research for the new VP of Operations. I opened the first file. Months of documentation showing Lauren and Evan's pattern of traveling together, staying at expensive hotels, charging intimate dinners to company accounts. Enough evidence to justify a formal HR investigation. "There's more," Mason said. "I found some interesting email chains about the Portland job opportunity. Looks like Evan's been negotiating a position there for months, and he's specifically requested that they create a matching position for Lauren. They're planning to leave together. Looks that way, but here's the thing. Evan's been using company resources to facilitate his job search, company email, company time, even company contacts. That's a clear violation of his employment agreement." I studied the documentation. Everything was there. The evidence of their affair, their misuse of company resources, their plan to abandon Meridian for better opportunities in Portland. "What do you want to do with this?" Mason asked. I closed the files and looked out my office window. Lauren was probably calling Evan, warning him their arrangement had just collapsed. "Schedule a meeting with Janet Morrison, both of them," I told Mason. "This will be fun," he grinned. "No," I said. "This will be justice." Janet reviewed the files and confirmed violations. Misuse of resources, hidden relationships, conflicts of interest. An investigation began. Within days, Evan was furious, Lauren shaken. She called me. "You bastard! How could you do this?" "I only reported violations," I replied. "This is about us." "No, this is about conduct. If you'd acted properly, there'd be no issue." Her voice hardened. "You think you've won, but you've just proven you're vindictive." "Maybe, but I'm vindictive with a corner office." When HR concluded, Evan was terminated, Lauren put on probation, the Portland job gone. Soon she was packing boxes at home. "Was it worth it?" she asked. "He destroyed himself," I said. I only showed the truth. 6 months later, Lauren resigned for a lower job in Denver. Before leaving, she called, "Thank you for forcing me to see who I am. Are you happy?" "I'm content, respected, free. Goodbye, Gabe." After the line went dead, I stared at the city below. Some would call it revenge. I called it justice. The end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.